Hello and welcome to Drunken Money. Today, for our listeners, we're going to be covering the one thing that stresses the most people out, and that's interviewing. Whether you're changing jobs, looking for a new job, or you're just getting out of college and you are entering the workforce. This is the perfect episode to find out what to do in an interview, what questions to ask at the end, and what are a few things to look for and be ready for. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Drunken Money's How to Nail That Interview.
Did high school and college leave you with a few gaps in navigating the adult world? Well, Drunken Money is here to help. Paul Heintzman and John Ackerman are financial advice for millennials by millennials. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is Drunken Money.
So on today's episode, we are joined with a previous guest. John Ackerman and I have Phil Brun here. Phil, what are you drinking?
Bud Light.
The best. One of the best beers of all time.
It's literally the same thing as Natural Light, just different vessel.
No way. No, it's not. That's a lie. No way.
All right.
We need to do it. Did you bring Natty Light?
No, but I'll go get some.
After this episode, we're gonna do a
blind taste test?
Yeah, we're gonna do a blind taste test. And John, you have a Bud Light too?
We got Bud Light and
Bud Light's all around.
good old watery beer.
Anheuser-Busch, you hear this? Representing.
Yeah, so we're looking for sponsors. So Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, if you're looking to sponsor, we'd love to have that. But back to the topic at hand. Right now, interviewing is a huge hot topic. Millennials are, they're jumping jobs more and more. Interviewing is becoming a huge piece. And millennials are needing it more and more. And actually, John, you mentioned that you knew a guy randomly that you had a very awesome question. Can you tell us about that question he asked in an interview?
Yeah, well, one of my friends got asked me, what would he do if he peed in his pants in a client meeting?
That one makes me so. In all honesty, if I did pee my pants in an interview,
You just got to sit there.
No,
wait.
I would obviously lie, make up a story that I have to go take care of something.
What if you were in khakis?
Cry? I would cry.
You got to just sit there, wait it out.
Note to self: never wear light pants to an interview.
Anyway, so that's a question that you hopefully won't be asked in an interview.
That's hopefully. But yes, on today's episode, we are going to be going over a couple tips and tricks that we found that have worked in the past. Personally, I had a job, every summer between college. I had 2 jobs while I was working at college. I had jobs in high school, and I applied to just about everywhere under the sun after college. So I've had my fair share of interviews, and I know, John, you definitely have, and I know, Phil, you certainly have as well. So let's go around real quick, and what's been really fortunate for you in interviews? What are some tips and tricks you found in interviews that have worked for you really well?
One, a lot of it's just your criteria, I guess, is because that's basically what it comes down to, is who you are and why you're a good fit. So as long as you can sell yourself and just really say why you're the best candidate for the job, I feel like that confidence is the big one. And then the other probably best tip I think that I've done is, immediately afterwards, you send your follow-up email thanking everybody, and then you send a card in the mail thanking everybody too that they'll get 2 days later. And I feel like that always helped. I don't know. I'm trying to think what I did that helped me stand out, because I've had a pretty good track record of interviews. But
you're not very standout. So, because and I am making a joke here, but you're very calm. You're laid back. How do you stand out as a CPA? Because you're a CPA.
Yeah.
You're competing.
Well, like the last few jobs I've had, it's, at least for me, it's, emphasize leadership things that you had in college, leadership positions. Pretty much everybody's had one. You join a club, you're president of the club, VP of the club, emphasize that, community service that you've done, degrees you have. Me personally, because I've got a master's of tax. So that was kind of my big sell for accounting positions.
Because that differentiates.
Nobody else. Yeah, it's a differentiate. Anything that makes you stand out, that they'll remember you for and why you're better than everybody else.
Because someone for an interview might be interviewing 40 different people, 50 different people, 100 different people. So if you can say masters of tax, especially as a CPA, that's a huge differentiator.
And like anything, as long as you have a foot in the door. I think the last 4 jobs I've gotten, I've known somebody at the company too that's putting a good word for me. So having that referral, and I know you're the same way. You know people that help you get everybody. It's always who you know and how they always help you too.
Sure.
So those are my tips.
And Phil, what usually works for you in an interview?
Typically, for me, talking less than you normally would. I know that sounds strange, but talking less has always been more beneficial, because whenever they didn't go well, I can think back and
You said
I
something.
always talked more than I should have.
So you said too much. You kind of put your foot in the you put your foot in the mouth a lot.
Yeah.
Yep, that you can never say too little.
See,
Because
now
if you
I'm
answer the question,
opposite. I have to make myself talk more because I'm naturally quiet.
yeah, that's
So
what
I
was
like
kinda
force
getting to.
myself to talk more in an interview than I normally would, like a normal
That's funny.
conversation.
I've got to make sure I shut up.
Well, see, what always worked for me is I think the homework piece is the biggest piece for an interview. I'll literally try to. I remember I was interviewing for my before my sophomore year, I had an interview for an internship, and I remember I tried to know everything about the company. I found out, I found something that they were in the news. And then I found out something afterwards. So after I had the interview, I waited 2 days and I wrote them a handwritten note. And in the handwritten note, I made sure to say something like, hey, a personal thing from the interview. And then also I said, hey, I also saw in the news recently that you guys did this. I can't wait to talk to you more about this. As in like a kind of a, can't wait to talk to you again about this thing that clearly I know. Wink, wink. Yeah. Nod. That's one of the things I always try to do. And the handwritten note, I think the handwritten note
For sure.
is the best. If you are bare minimum, you have to send an email. You have to send a thank you because they're spending time to interview you. And then again, you're on their radar again. But the handwritten note, getting that in the mail, and if you do it as soon as you get home, they get it the next day. That is on point right there.
And send it to everybody because usually when you're interviewed, there's 3-4 people that touch you throughout the day. So it's like send it to everybody, and then definitely do the research for the company. Dress for the job. Obviously, pretty much. I know at least us, probably all of us, wear a suit for the jobs that we go after. Dress up for the job. Bring your resume, arrive on time. Don't show up late. I remember reading horror stories online of like candidates that will show up a half hour late. It's one of those things where on LinkedIn, which you have LinkedIn, all these what annoys me on LinkedIn, all these like recruiters post like about awful candidates they've had. I was like, if I was one of those candidates, I would like write back and be like, I'll just blast them if they were talking about me on LinkedIn to everybody.
Sure. I've always wondered how honest those
stories
just
are
to get
about, attention.
Oh,
They drive
Give me an
insane.
example. I don't know if I've seen these. What are these?
Oh, like one will be like, I had this Harvard MBA come in today, and they're an hour and a half late because they were talking to a CEO of another company, and they didn't care about us. And I just told them, no thanks, we're not interested.
I've never
So like
seen
recruiters
this.
will say that, and I was like, if I was that guy that was a Harvard MBA, I would just light up that person.
Well, but at the same time, if you are that Harvard MBA, you shouldn't have been an hour and a half late
Well,
to
yeah,
interview.
if it's true. But I was like, you can't
But
post
it's
that.
the same story, just a different recruiter, like 5 times an hour.
But you can't post that on LinkedIn about somebody. But anyway, moral of the story, don't be an hour and a half late. So you're not put on blast.
and that's the thing too. Oh, and I was reading on Reddit, and this is gonna sound crazy. If you do get there early, take some time to read the magazines there. There was one where a guy, he was qualified for the job, but he was 15 minutes early. So he sat down, he was reading an article, and one of the articles in the magazine, like a marketing firm is going to have marketing books, technology firm is going to have technology books. So let's just say he was saying he was in a technology company, and the article was 5 issues that are facing this technology company today. And he read all about it. And he says he is pretty sure he got the job because one of the last questions they asked him were, what are some of the issues you see our industry facing today? And he just lit it up. He was just, I'm so ready for this because he just read it. And that goes back to like doing your homework, knowing what the industry is doing, knowing what their company is doing. And if you can, because we are so connected, find out who was going to interview you ahead of time. Get to know them a little bit more, and don't be creepy. Like, don't go to their Facebook and say, "Hey, I saw 2 weeks ago you were at this concert. Oh man, I wish I could have been there." Ooh, no, don't do that. But try to find something that maybe where they went to school. See if there's any connections or similarities that you can kind of bring up. That again, just set you apart.
And look up the questions. I mean, probably half of interview questions are like the same, like repeat questions over and over.
Yeah.
What's your strength?
yeah.
What's your weakness? Why are you right for this job? Why should we hire you? Like, you should know the answer to all of those.
Okay.
That shouldn't
My
come as a
strength is
surprise.
that I don't share my weaknesses with people that can use it against me.
Let me ask. Okay, so here's so monster.com. So John,
Yeah.
Phil and I are going to interview you real quick. You are applying for a job
I didn't prepare for this.
You're applying for a job at just a random business company.
Okay.
Phil and I'm CEO. Phil is president, and we're interviewing you for this high-level EVP job. So, John, I'm really curious, and I want to hear more. And again, I want to give you the upfront. Monster.com gave us these questions, and we want to make sure we're fair to all our interviewees. So, frankly, John, and again, thank you for being in this interview. If we gave you time off, to be involved with the community, what would you do? Sir, that's a serious question. Why are you laughing?
What would I do? I've never been asked that one.
Well, we're in an interview, so I don't care. I'm in an
It got
interview.
real, boy.
What would I'm put on blast. I didn't prepare for this interview. What would I do with
You
the
didn't
community?
prepare for this interview? Do you care about this job at all?
What company is this for?
This is for Business ABC.
Incorporated.
What do we do?
We sell widgets.
Well,
You should have done your homework. Answer the damn question, John.
You're applying for a finance position. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what.
All right.
We do.
Well, say this was like a realty. I'd be like, I would go and volunteer for Habitat for Humanity and help build houses because I believe everybody should have a good home.
God, that was so lame.
That was
Okay, here's another question. And let's
All right,
take,
at least
John, can we
adopt
take
a
this seriously?
highway or something.
Can we take this seriously? I thought we were taking this seriously.
I
Okay.
didn't know I was being interviewed.
So, Mr. Ackerman,
All
Mr.
right.
Ackerman, what do you read or listen to every day to get the news?
is that a real question? People
That is
ask?
a real. Okay, so Monster.com. This is the top 10 interview
What do you
questions
read to get
to
the news?
ask millennials.
Well, usually I go and I'll go to Drunken Money first off, but then I will go to Fox News and I will go to CNN and I'll go to ABC and I will compare headlines and see, what their slants are so I can get down to the bottom of the story.
So you just read headlines? You don't actually read the actual article? Okay, no. Next question.
Terrible.
Okay, how about you? Okay, you do it to me. You do it to me.
All right, I've never been asked any of these questions.
Okay, here. I'm passing. I am passing.
I wasn't prepared for
Okay,
it.
so ask me a question, and I will take it seriously because I'm excited to be here for this interview.
You literally picked the questions that I would not have an idea. There are 10 questions. You asked me like the 2 worst ones. All right.
Okay, we're waiting.
All right. So I'm your boss.
No, you're my future prospect boss.
All right. I'm the future prospect boss.
Thank you, Phil.
What kind of relationship do you expect to have with your boss?
In all honesty, one of my strengths is communication. And I'm also a woo. I like to win others over. I like to build relationships with everyone I meet. So I would like a
So
good
you're a
relationship.
kiss ass.
Oh, absolutely. Total yes, man. I mean, I'm just a company man through and through. But more seriously, I like to think I do want a professional relationship, but I also want a comfortable relationship where I can come to my boss and actually tell them something. If I feel like they're wrong, if they feel like I'm wrong, I want them to be able to come forward. I want to be able to come forward to them. I want to feel comfortable with them. I want to be able to have a drink after work with them. But I also want it to be formal, that they can come to me with any issue that they have with me, and vice versa.
All right. And on a real note,
And boom, knocked it out of
on
the
a
park.
real note,
Thanks.
so this article you found is the top 10 interview questions asked millennials. I don't know if I've ever been asked any of these questions in an interview.
This is Monster.com.
Maybe you don't make the interviewer feel comfortable to ask you those questions.
Well, generally, I don't know about you, when I'm in an interview, it's basically you just talk about your history. I love most of it. It's like you give them your resume. And that's another interview thing is always bring copies of your resume. And
Yep.
you kind of just walk down your resume. It's like, oh, you went to this college. What'd you study? What'd you like?
I think resumes are junk.
Why is that?
I'm glad you asked. That's a very good question. First of all, do you know the history of the resume?
I guess I'm going to find out.
The very first resume was written by whom? Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, so that right there puts him so far above anybody, right? I mean, the man is he was a genius. Okay, so that right there, and his resume was basically about what he has invented for warfare, and he sent it out to kings. Okay, so beyond that, I think resumes are too braggadocious, and they're all false. And anything you look up, hiring managers, I think the statistic is 80% of all resumes have basically a false statement in them.
Have you all ever put anything false on a resume?
I've only had one resume in my life, and I hate myself for even doing it. But secondly, but you can pay a firm to write a resume for you, right?
Who does that?
Well, I don't know, but you can.
I feel like for more high-powered jobs, people might be doing that.
Yeah, but
I'd be scared to death to put something fake on my resume.
But they're
Just for the
hiring.
fact that someone might call you.
yeah, if somebody found out I put something
Or
fake on my resume.
Or you get hired because of that. Like, I can speak
Yeah.
3 languages: French, English, and Spanish.
You're hired.
Day 1, you're going to be on the phone with France and Spain. Okay, let's see how you can do on the fly.
But you can also pay a firm to write you a resume, right? So if you're hiring me and I've got a stellar resume, you're like, man, this is the best resume I've ever seen. Like, yeah, I paid $2,000 to somebody to write that, right? So I just think resumes are junk. I think a narrative is to this. I think resumes are dead, or they should be dead. They never are, but they should be dead. I think a narrative, like a bio of you, because a narrative's never going to a resume never tells you like. 2015 worst sales year. I think 16 worst sales year of my career, worst ever. Well, I'm not going to put that on a resume, right? Because it's not like 2016 worst year I've ever had in my entire life. But in a biography or in a narrative bio, I'd be more than happy to be like, you know what, this is what happened. Here's what I learned from it, and this way it will never happen again. But you can't do that in a resume.
That's a good point. But the question is, and I think resumes are invented so that an HR professional can read 100 resumes at a time. Because they
Show me the first HR
well, like
professional.
gets you in the door.
HR hiring professional, something.
The resume gets you in the door, and then your interview gets
But
you
I
the
think,
job.
but also, I think the cover. What we haven't talked about is the cover letter.
I've never done a cover letter.
You've never. I love cover letters. 'Cause
Never had a
on a
cover
cover
letter.
letter, you put essentially what's not on your resume. So I'll basically bring up, my strengths finder, or I might bring up my history within an industry, or I might bring up, what I do for fun, volunteering, or on the weekends or something, how I can relate it to the job. I basically try to make what's not on my resume. I try to have fun with the cover letter and then bring that up, and then I also try to bring some of that stuff up in the interview as well.
So that's cool. You put your strengths finder. That's the WOO, right? The W.
Yeah, so my strengths finder is woo, empathy, communication, positivity, and developer.
You're the only person in the world that
I
probably.
love strengths finder. I bring it up almost in every
I've
interview
never
I
done.
have.
Humana is big on those. I have a friend of mine that's a trainer at Humana, and they are all about those different, like the DISC, the
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, strengths finders.
I love, and my girlfriend loves them too. I love personality. I love knowing, I love hearing what my personality is, learning what I'm doing, how to play to my strengths. Because that does come up in an interview. You should know your strengths, know your weaknesses.
Yeah, mine was achievement, competitiveness. It was all that.
You're competitive.
I'm a little
This is all
competitive.
news to me.
Oh yeah.
This is all news.
He'll sneak up on you.
This is all news to me. But also, another question I have for you guys is, what are some of the questions you ask after the interview? They say always to have questions you want to ask them after the interview. One of my favorite ones is, what does a day-to-day look like in your position? I love that question. Or if you want to be a little risky too, you can't say, why is this position vacant currently?
That's a good one.
That puts
too.
them on the spot big time, because the last person said, they quit because they were here for 3 days and they couldn't cut it. Oh gosh, that might be tough. But if they said, the person was actually here for 20 years, he retired, and he moved on to bigger and better things.
And that's where a lot of that too. I know some interviews I've been on, they'll have younger people take you to lunch, people that are at your level take you to lunch or something, and that really then you can kind of dig into what it's actually like.
Oh yeah, because it's not as formal.
Yeah, and then you can really be all right, what's it actually like here?
Well, that's brave of the company to sit. I mean, they're giving you an honest outlook at that point in time. That's to be respected.
I saw this one guy on Wall Street. Anytime he hires someone that's going to work directly for him, he takes them out to lunch, and he goes to the same place every time, and the waiter knows to bring the other person the wrong thing. Because he wants to test how that person will do, one, when he's given the wrong thing that he asked for, and two, how he handles under pressure. Because it is really difficult. I struggle with that. If someone brings me the wrong thing, if it's completely wrong, I don't have any problem sending it back, whatever. But if it is something I like, I'm I'll just eat this. But he wants to know, because some people in a high-powered position on Wall Street might be this is the wrong thing. What are you even thinking? Because some people, want to see power or strength. Some people actually are into that, which I think is total shitty. But I thought that was an interesting thing to do. To bring someone thinking something wrong every time. I bet you get some great reactions on that.
I like that. And then sometimes you have it where like the person who makes the final decision like doesn't act like they make the final decision. Like they just may meet you in like the waiting room and like just play it off like there's an average Joe that works there and just chat with you like beforehand.
See, that's the shit I want to do when I have like if I have my own company and like I'm hiring a bunch of people, I'd like just be sitting out in the hallway just like, oh, just reading the newspaper. Oh, are you interviewing for this too? Oh, me too. Like, what are you nervous about? Oh yeah. Oh wait, this is the interview. Welcome to the job. You got it. Congratulations. I shake their hand and then
Boy Meets World, they do that.
Do they really?
When Eric Matthews was a weatherman.
I don't remember that.
No, the guy that was in charge of the studio. He was acted like he was the janitor, kind of.
But okay, let's circle back around. Let's bring it back into the interviews. I guess let's talk about real quick. What has been the worst thing that's ever happened to you in an interview?
Oh, I had one when I was like a freshman in college. I had an interview at Humana. And there were like 100 elderly people in the lobby protesting Humana. So I walked in and everybody was like, we're people, not profits. And like, I couldn't get through to the elevator. And I was like, I was like 18. I was like, holy shit. I was so nervous for the interview. And then I couldn't even get there because everybody's protesting the company. So by the time I got to the interview, I was like, I don't want to work here. You've got like all these angry older people in the lobby, talking about how awful you are. And then I got to the interview and it was like me at a table with like 6 people around me. It was like a 6-on-1 interview. And then they started asking me accounting questions in the interview. And I was so flustered. And they started like literally asking me like test questions. Like I was like, I can't do this. I didn't get the job. And I didn't really want the job afterwards. But I was like, this is scary. That was just from start to finish the worst possible interview.
Well, it's actually interesting you bring that up because as much as an interview is them interviewing you, you're interviewing them because if it is like that, you obviously didn't like the company. You didn't like the company atmosphere. You weren't a fan. So you realized that was one of the things you didn't like. But one thing I hate is the group interviews.
Yes.
I hate group interviews when it's like 20 people all in a room and you're given a couple tasks. You get to group up. I do not like those because I feel like sometimes people who wouldn't, don't want to take charge usually are automatically just trying to take charge. You feel like if you don't say enough, you say too much. And they're designed for that reason. They're designed for that exact reason. But I just absolutely do not like those.
I have never heard of a group interview.
You've never had? Oh, I had one in college.
I would actually like to go in a group interview.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun.
And that's what you think because I was doing it with a lot of my peers and I thought this is going to be awesome. But all of a sudden, everyone is competing. Because as much as people want to work together, people do want to shine people. It's like an episode of Survivor. Oh yeah, it's 100% an episode of Survivor.
I've never heard of that either.
Not a fan.
Then I hate behavioral questions too, where they're like,
"What do you mean?"
Like, tell me a time when you've overcome adversity and describe how you reacted to it and what the outcomes were. And
I was at a police chase once.
And how did you impact everybody else? And you're like, I don't know. It's like I have no idea. It's like I got a bad grade on my test last week. I don't.
Well, I feel like those are a lot of questions that come up with interviews. It's like, tell me about a time when you disagreed with someone, when something happened that you disagreed with. Like, did you stand up for yourself? Did you not? I feel like those are a lot of questions that come up.
But then you don't know, like, where to go with it.
But you don't need to know where to, and that's one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is the thing is, I think, biggest about interviews is to be honest. Because if you're not honest, if you say, oh, I'm even keeled, I have no temper, and then all of a sudden day 2, you like start blowing up at the IT guy for fixing your computer, it's like, well, there's a disconnect here. I think and if you aren't honest, you might also get a job that you're not qualified for or you won't like. So if you're honest and you don't get the job, then they didn't want you. And if they don't want you, that's not an issue. Because if they don't want you, you're not going to work there. But as long as you were honest about it, you have no hard feelings. But if you were honest and you do get the job and you actually like them, then you'll feel a lot better about yourself too. So I don't think it's having to know where to go with it. It's reading the question and answering it honestly. And if they like it, cool. But if not, yeah.
And I like where you said that interview is just as much you interviewing the company. Because there have been, for sure, especially if you apply for multiple jobs at once, it's really common, like accounting, you'll apply for 10 jobs at once and interview all of them. Like, you need to be able to weed out which companies you like and which companies you don't at the same time. So even though they're seeing if they like you need to be seeing if you like the company.
100%.
And that's where your questions to them, come in handy. Like, what's the culture here? What's an average day like? Are you relaxed or more, traditional, and kind of those questions. And
So I want to go, before we do kind of some last call question updates for just the three of us, I do kind of want to sum up what was said about interviews. And I think some of that is, prepare for the interview, do your homework. During the interview, be as honest as possible. At the end of the interview, make sure you do ask questions that you want to know about, because again, it's as much your interview as it is theirs. And finally, do not forget to follow up, whether it's an email, which is the least amount of work, or a handwritten letter, which is the best, I believe. Make sure you follow up.
Agreed.
Yeah, and if you want to get that job, and please let us know if any of this information helped. We do want to hear about some of our fans and audience members about what they think. But I do want to get a quick update. Anyone reading anything right now, or anything tipping off anything in the news you've recently seen about millennials? Anything?
We had some good Facebook updates on things we saw about millennials. Drunken Money Facebook. Check it
yeah.
out. We shared some good articles about millennials this week, and then reading the same stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of which, don't forget to tell your friends or share us on Facebook, like us, because we're also, this is our first episode that's also has a video accompaniment. So don't forget, you can watch our videos now. And don't forget, we cannot wait to hear what more people think of our episodes, because we really do want to find out what our audience wants to hear. Because right now we're literally just coming up with these episodes and we're doing them to an audience of who wants to hear it. But we want to actually make episodes for what people truly want to hear. So again, if you are a millennial, if you are struggling with something in your personal life, financial life, anything, we'd love to do an episode on it, or we'd love to have you on our show. And again, I'm Paul Heintzman.
I'm John Ackerman.
And I'm Phil Brun.
And this is Drunken Money. Thank you.